this is Amy with Flower Moxie. Thank you so much for joining me. If my channel helps you out, then be sure to like and subscribe. Today I'm really excited to show what I've learned this week. We did a styled shoot, like a collection shoot, and I got to work with a beautiful model named Jessie. Jessie uses a wheelchair, and she was kind enough to lend me her extra chair so I could do this tutorial. So the first thing that I want to emphasize is that every chair, every person's different. So what I'm teaching here may not work for everybody. So if you're a florist or you have a friend who uses a chair, maybe you can take some of the things that you've learned, but it may not all apply to that person or that chair. The single thing that I want to stress the most is that the flowers and the mechanics are all secondary. The most important thing is to make sure that there isn't any type of damage to a chair. They're very, very custom, very expensive, and that it doesn't change the function for the user. So communication is key. The first thing that I thought of is, what mechanics can I use, what will be best to work with the chair. And I ruled a lot of things out. Obviously the obvious, I don't want to bust out any glue, I don't want to use floral putty, glue strips, anything like that. And I even didn't feel comfortable using waterproof floral tape because that can leave behind like a sticky residue. So for the tape, I felt really good about using stem tape. It isn't sticky, it basically sticks to itself. I used zip ties, and I also use some bind wire. Now, any other wire I would not want to use because like paddle wire, straight wire, or bullion wire, that's straight up metal, and I don't want to scratch the chair in any way. And bind wire, it's coated with some paper, it's really soft, so I'm not worried about that inflicting any kind of damage to the chair. And one other tip, and this is something that I really like, I use it a lot, is this is rubber grip shelf liner. And so I'll use this on arches, and it helps hold things in place when you're zip tying, florals to metal. So, for this tutorial, I'm gonna wrap it around the back of this bar, and then I'll attach my florals with zip ties, and that way it won't be so prone to for gravity to take a hold in those florals to start turning down. It's a lot easier to pull a zip tie really tight when you have this shelf liner in place rather than just plastic on metal. So for Jessie, we had a discussion on what would work, and her chair is a bit more low profile. She's an athlete, she's a basketball player, so she needs to be able to move and turn her body. So she didn't have as high as a back as what I was expecting. Now the first thing that I thought of mechanic-wise would be a floral, it's a foam pew holder. So those have a hook and it has like a little foam. I would have one, and I tried to get one, but with the pandemic, we're not able to get all the floral supplies that we normally get. But what it would do is it could hook onto the back. And as long as, Jessie was comfortable with feeling that, there would be like a little plastic on the back holding that in place, I think that would be a really great solution. But because there isn't a tall back on this, and because I couldn't get a pew holder, that's not the direction I went. I asked her if she would be comfortable if we attached some florals to this bar, and she said that wasn't a problem. It wasn't going to impede her movement or anything like that. Then I came in and I asked, can we attach some florals or greenery to these sidebars? And she was fine with that. But she did inform me that, when she's in her chair, she will tether her legs and strap them, and these bars are very important for that. So that instantly, kind of told me as a florist, if I'm going to put any type of greenery or floral, it needs to definitely be on the outside. I don't want it rubbing or touching her leg or her dress or her pants. And I definitely want to make sure that that doesn't interfere with the straps that she puts on her legs. And then this surprised me. She was like, yeah, you can put things on the spokes. I like to decorate the spokes with Christmas lights, and it's December right now. And so I think like attaching something like some Italian ruscus would be really pretty if you did like maybe every other spoke. So I'll show you how I did that. Okay, so to get started, we'll start with this bar in the back. And I've got my rubber shelf liner. Not only does this help the florals stay put, I also just like that extra layer of protection. And I'm just gonna use some zip ties. See how I can ratchet that down way tighter? When it's just metal, that's a little bit challenging. Okay, so what I did here is I made 2 little bouquets and they have a flat back. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach them together like this. So what we're kind of doing is creating like a floral swag here. And I taped them together. I went ahead and broke that one. But I was okay using that tape because that tape is obviously not going on the chair. So we're gonna take these end to end. This is a little tricky. It's really good if you have somebody to lend a hand. And we're gonna get a zip tie. It's the best way to secure these flowers together. And I don't tighten it down all the way because I want to pull them together as close as I can. Okay, so now we're gonna get this tighter. Tight enough to where it will hold together, but not so tight that I can't stick flowers and greenery in, and I'll show you what I'm talking about there. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is zip tie these florals to the bar. Okay, so this is very, very secure. And when I did this for the shoot, I didn't have any shelf liner, and I was definitely struggling with those front-loaded flowers turning downwards. Now they're not gonna fall off because it's zip tied, but again, that metal on plastic zip tie situation, when you've got, you know, front-loaded flowers, gravity will take effect and pull your flowers downwards, and that's why that rubber shelf liner is so incredible. And if you're doing a copper arch, you'll want it for that as well. So now it's a question of how do I hide my mechanics? And so I'm gonna bring this chair down so I can kind of get more on top of it, and basically we'll just thread in some greenery and hardy flowers to cover that. Okay, so this is on, it's secure, but I do have the issue with those zip tie mechanics that I want to cover. I don't want any of that to show up, but it's pretty easy to do it because you have all these stems and they're very tightly wound and zip tied together. You can really just thread in greenery and florals within that and it's not gonna come out. And if you're worried about it, you can wrap some bind wire. So I've got some lisianthus. So we're just backfilling and covering those mechanics up. We'll see if I can get away with the rose, but that might be a little bit, might be too big. Oh, no, got it. Nice. Very good. He's a little smushed in there, but he's definitely not going anywhere. So at this point, I've hidden my mechanics. I feel very confident that this isn't gonna shift down. I feel confident that I haven't done any type of damage or impacted the chair. This one is a little bit long and getting into that wheel, so I can just cut that a bit shorter. Everything else seems about the right length. Okay, so for the sidebars, I really love this Italian ruscus. It's very linear. It's a great size and shape. And it typically more has like a flat back, which would work really well for this. So yeah, I'll cut off my excess, start at the bottom, kind of make sure that it can reach. So I have my length right. And this is where I'm gonna use my stem tape. I can use zip ties, but it will be hard to cover those mechanics where stem tape is green, and it will blend really well with the ruscus. You could use bind wire. I feel like this will be a bit more stable. Now her chair is orange, so the green will show up kind of on the other side, but when she was sitting in her chair, you couldn't really see that. And I was able to put all of this on the chair while she was getting her makeup done. So these flowers are obviously something that you would want to put on the day of. And so just every so many inches, I just wrap a little bit of stem tape around it, move the ruscus out of the way. And I could get more heavy-handed with this, if she wanted it really, really full. And so now we have the greenery on here. If you wanted to come back and tape in some flowers, I think that you absolutely could. I have this like beautiful Genestra. It would need to be something like more long lasting. Carnations, palms, things like that. I think that you could easily backfill, bring in some stem tape, and, you know, add florals to this. We would just want to keep it on the outside, not on the inside of the bar, and make sure that, you know, after I was done, that she could still do everything that she needed to do and that they weren't rubbing her leg or bothering her in any way. So that's how I attached it right on the side. Let's do a spoke. And I think it makes it a little bit more secure. So it was just wrapped around like twice. So I taped it at the bottom, and I'm going to tape it right at the top. And for her chair, she was excited and felt very comfortable putting things on the spokes. Maybe not everyone will. She just said, you know, avoid hitting the axle or doing anything with that. So I still think that you could get away with pulling in sprigs of floral if your client or your friend or family member wants that. And you will just kind of take the same technique of bringing in little pieces of floral, twisting it on with some bind wire or with some stem tape. So we've attached this floral swag. It's very secure, very beautiful. I was able to make those bouquets a few days in advance, kept them in water, but it won't be able to be attached to the chair until the day of. We used stem tape, zip ties, some rubber shelf liner. I didn't need to bust out the bind wire, but that works as well. And I think it's beautiful. If you have any questions, then let us know. If you put flowers on a chair, I would love to see it, because I'd love to see more creative ways to add florals. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.